Good evening. Welcome to our 2023 edition, the first one of our Vegetarian Way cooking demonstrations. We want to welcome you all here tonight. My name, in case you don't know, my name is Paul Chapman. I'm the local pastor here for the church. But this is something that we do every year. May and October is what we've been doing. Now, something's unique about tonight. This is the first one we're doing without Lydia. For those who've been here before, who knows Lydia, yeah? Okay, without Lydia, this is the first time we're doing this, because Lydia is the one that used to coordinate all this for us, and she was very good at that, and we just followed Lydia, but she's not here now. She retired with her husband, and they took off to Brazil. So they're gone there for 3 months, so we're like by ourselves here trying to work out, how do we do this now? So just bear with us. It's the first time. We hope you enjoy it tonight. And before we begin, let's just have a word of prayer, shall we? Just like to, for those who are able to bow. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you so much for the opportunity we have to be here tonight, Lord. We thank you for providing for us the wonderful bounties of nature, for our good health and well-being, and we pray that you'll bless us in these presentations tonight, and may we take what we find here with us, may it be a blessing to our own health as we apply it individually. We pray this and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Now tonight, we have, just for those who haven't been here before, what we usually do for the first, say, 15, 20 minutes, we'd like to give a little bit of health education information for you, just to help. It's just not all about cooking, it's all about the knowledge as well, and applying that knowledge in various areas of our health. So the cooking is something that makes it really nice for us to know that we can also live healthfully and it tastes good as well. Okay, so tonight we're going to have a presentation about 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so, and we have Nathan who's going to take us through something of relevance for our health and well-being. Before he does, I just want to refer you to a couple of things. Firstly, you all have the recipe sheets for tonight, Vegetarian Way. Okay, now we've got those in order of the recipes as they are presented tonight. So if you don't have one, just see Deborah at the table there. She'll give you one. If you'd like copies of them, see Deborah as well. You can take copies to share around. These Vegetarian Way demonstrations are also streamed to our Schofield's Church channel on YouTube. You just look up YouTube, Schofield's Church, and that's the channel, okay? YouTube/Schofield's Church, you'll get to the channel, and youtube.com, I should say, .com, is it? youtube.com/Schofield's Church. And with these demonstrations, we will be putting links to the recipes as well. So if every night we do this, there'll be the link below for the recipe sheets if you would like to have them online digitally. Tonight also, we've got a special gift pack for you. You should all have received one of these. If you've registered, you would have all received one. We've got here a little community feedback survey we'd like you to fill out. Just helps us know just which direction to go with the various programs we put on here, and things that we can that you'll find interesting and of benefit for yourself or for your friends or family. So we'd like to encourage you to fill in the survey for us. That'll be very helpful. There's also some free little leaflets there, information, and also this one book, which is Nature Heals, Why Be Sick? Now, let me explain about this book. This was a book that was put together by George Teasdale, who was a very prominent naturopath, probably in the 40s and 50s. But the information in here, it's more like, as you read it, it's more like a little compendium of good health advice. So it's more like a little encyclopedia of things, okay? So as you read through it, he takes you through, and it's on the principles of natural hygiene and health and well-being from a dietary point of view, and how you can use diet also to deal with certain diseases and illnesses you may have in the home. So that's a free little book, Nature Heals, Why Be Sick? That's for you to take home and enjoy, and if you want to pass it on, we've got more copies here. Feel free to pass that on as well. Okay, so with this now, I'd like to invite Nathan to come forward, and he's got a few little thoughts here for us on health and well-being. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you, Paul, and good to see everyone. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. I'm Nathan. It's been a little while since I was here, but it's great to be with you. And I just want to talk a little bit about, well, what did I call it? Nutrition essentials. all right? Because as Paul spoke about last time, if you remember, we talked about the New Start acronym. New Start, nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, so forth. A lot of the different principles. Nutrition is a big one, yeah? And we come here tonight to talk about nutrition and cooking. So I'd like to just go over a couple of things about nutrition. First of all, when I studied a little bit about nutrition, it brought me back to primary school. And I remember in primary school, I grew up in Tennessee, so in the good old US of A, and I was taught a certain 4-food group outline. You know, I'm not sure back in the day what was taught in Australia, but I wonder if the same thing was taught at the time. But you know, it goes back further than that. And so let me take you back through a little bit of history. First of all, in the 1940s to 50s, in America, the USDA recommended, you know, certain guidelines about eating, okay? And so they had a kind of a colorful wheel here of 7 groups of food, right? You had green and yellow, orange, actual different colors, green, yellow vegetables, starting at the top. You had oranges, tomatoes, and grapefruit. Why they classified that, I'm not sure. Then there was potatoes and other vegetables going along. Then down the bottom there's milk, and then meat and poultry. Coming up the left there's bread, flour, and up the top left butter and margarine. So those were all the basic 7 you should eat, right? That was the conventional wisdom at the time. Well, look how it changed. Then from around almost 40 years, the 1950s through the early 1990s, that includes the time that I went to school in the 80s, there was just the 4 food groups, right? So that's what I remember, the 4 food groups, right? And I remember what happened was, in school, they took us through an analysis. They said, take a diary of what you eat for, I think it was a week or 2 weeks, and come back, and we'll put that in the computer, and we'll see how you're going, all right? And I never forget, there was somebody in the class that was a vegan, right? One of the kids. And can you imagine what the computer said? Because the 4 food groups, right, were meat is 1, dairy is 2, grains was 3, and fruits and vegetables was 4. So you can imagine what the computer said about the poor vegan in the class, right? Oh, you're only getting half your nutrition, right? So I remember that from school. But then something happened in the 90s because science sort of started catching up with public diet advice. And what we sort of found was that the health advice was not really based on nutritional research totally. It was kind of based a little bit on industrial interests from, you know, certain industries. And so when science sort of started catching up a little bit, it went to something like this, the food pyramid. And so now what we did is we said, your proportion of what you eat should start at the bottom and work up. So now you put the carbohydrates at the bottom as the bulk of nutrition. Then you move up to vegetables and fruit. Then going up to near the top of the pyramid, as the pyramid goes up, you know, the width gets less, and so this should be less and less part of your diet. So we start to emphasize that the fruits and the veggies and the grains should be more part of the diet. And so then the dairy and the meat got, you know, slid up the pyramid. And at the very top, the things you should have very little of is like oils and fats and sugars. All right, so that actually reflected a little better what the reality is for human beings. All right. However, they weren't finished. All right, this is 92. This is after, I think I was in high school, and I didn't hear much about this by then, you know. So then in 2005, they changed it again, right? And this was kind of short-lived, this one. This is all American stuff, right? But they called it My Pyramid, and so they really divided up into slices again, a bit like originally, you know, equal sort of slices. But again, they emphasized your vegetables and your fruits a little bit more. They separated those out. And do you notice there's something new here? Besides food, there's something else. There's a set of steps, and someone walking up the steps. So they actually recognize that to be healthy, it's not just about what you put in your mouth, but it's what you do with yourself. So exercise comes into it, yeah? As I said, this was a little bit short-lived because then in 2011, the U.S. government changed again, and they created a plate with proportions around the plate. And if you notice something about this, there is no longer a meat category. So what they've done is they've gone into, the fruits, the vegetables, and the grains, but then they've put the protein. So protein is not only meat, but it's your legumes as well, right? Your vegetable sources of protein. And so it's sort of acknowledged that when planned properly, you can get all your nutrition from plants. So you don't need to get it from an animal source. So that was interesting as well. And of course, they put dairy over on the side. And as I was looking into this, I found out that there's one more step, right? The people at Harvard University, there's a couple of universities in America that do a lot of work on nutrition and health, and Harvard is one of those. And so Harvard actually came out with this. They took the plate and they changed it again. And they took away the dairy category on the side and they put a glass of water there. Then they talked about healthy oils. They sort of addressed the oil issue, and very much the same here. But they called this healthy protein. And it's interesting, they mentioned choose fish, poultry, beans, and nuts, limit red meat, avoid bacon, cold cuts, and other processed meats. Because that is the state of the research now, especially on processed meats. Even if you're not a vegetarian, processed meats are probably the worst choice that you could make among the sort of non-vegetarian options. So that was really interesting. So that's Harvard University. I think it's cut off. No, it's not cut off. Yes, so that's from Harvard. That's called the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate. So I think that's interesting that just the state of the public health advice or the nutrition advice out there has changed a lot over the years. And today we're a far cry from what we used to be, the 4 food groups. It's very, very different now. Well, what about Australia? Because I come from America, but what about Australia? So there is Nutrition Australia, is a non-profit which also publishes nutrition guidelines in Australia. And they use kind of going back to the pyramid concept. And so by now that's very familiar to us, isn't it? So let's go down the base. You have all your, and now instead of putting grains and so forth at the bottom, they've actually put all the vegetables and fruit and vegetable sources of protein as well down here at the bottom, as should be the main bulk of the diet. Then further up, they've got your grains is what I meant to say. Grains is further up. And then, again, further up the pyramid, you find your other proteins and your dairy and so forth. And it says healthy fats. And you notice healthy fats, a non-seed oil is pictured. All right, so olive oil is not a seed oil. It's kind of like it's a fruit oil, right, which is a healthier oil than seed oil. So that's from Nutrition Australia. That was published within the last 10 years anyway. So I find that very interesting. Now, so we all know we need to eat our veggies, all right? That's pretty much everyone understands that now. You've got to eat your veggies. And how do you think we're doing eating our veggies as a society? Everyone knows you need to eat your veggies, just like we all know we need to exercise, and just like we know a lot of things. How are we doing actually eating our veggies? What do you reckon? Good? Mediocre? Bad? No, this is not for you yourself personally, but what do you think about society in general? We know we are supposed to eat our veggies, but what are we doing? Well, a few years ago, the ABC ran a little story, and I thought this was interesting. The CSIRO studied and found that most Australians, that's 4 out of 5, are not eating enough fruit and vegetables. So that really means that only about 20% of the country is getting the fruits and veggies that we're supposed to. Yeah? And so the rest, so we know we're supposed to do it, but it has not translated into a change in lifestyle. All right? That's what the CSIRO found. That was in 2017. So that's one of the reasons we're here, talking about that today. Because, to be honest, when you see a picture of healthy fruit, we put up a lot of pictures here, fruit and veggies and stuff. It looks attractive, but it doesn't look appetizing necessarily to someone who is not used to eating, who eats raw broccoli, and so it's sort of like, yeah, it looks nice, but how do you get that into you? And maybe just as important for parents, how do you get it into children, right? How do you get vegetables into kids? How do you get them used to eating them, And so knowing how to prepare the food so it tastes good, looks good, and you know it's good for you, that's a challenge to move and to shift our habits. It's taking a while to do that. And that's one of the reasons we do these cooking demonstrations, because we want to actually advance that in our community so that you can know how to get more veggies and fruits into you. All right? So, I want to point out one thing, though. We use the word vegetarian, but it's more than just vegetarian. The terms like vegetarian and vegan get sort of bounced around, but it's really what the healthy eating is really trying to emphasize is not buzzwords like vegan and vegetarian. It's really something that I like to call it this: whole foods and plant-based, right? Whole foods and plant-based. So we're looking to get most of our nutrition from plants, or in the case here, we're demonstrating everything comes from plants, all right? But we're trying to use those plants in basically the most natural form that we can. Does that make sense? So you can take a plant and you can put it through a laboratory and through a factory, and you can completely change it, and it's still plant. It still comes from plants. So it's vegetarian, but it may not be good for you, right? So, cane sugar is vegetarian, all right? But probably too much of that's not a good thing, right? High fructose corn syrup is from a plant, but it's a manufactured food. And so a lot of foods are based on these substances that come from plants. They're not necessarily good for you. So when you think of plant-based and whole foods, that's just saying you're looking to get your nutrition from plants, and you're looking for it to be as natural as possible, all right? Or as close to as the way it is in nature, rather than processed and manufactured and so forth. So I think that's simple to understand, and that's where the advice is aiming us toward. So, how am I going for time, Paul? I'm just 5 minutes? Okay, I can speed this up a little bit. One of the specific things, since I mentioned manufactured foods, all right, one of the things I'd like to show you is just something about carbohydrates, all right? Now, carbohydrate is a big word, but it means a molecule or a compound made of carbon and water, carbohydrate, all right? And plants make these. The story I have here, it was about 10 years ago. I moved to Victoria. I'd volunteered with my local fire brigade because I live in the country. Anyway, one day I was sitting down to lunch, just picked up the fork, and the pagers went off. There was a fire over on the Tullarook Ranges in the Seymour district north of Melbourne, and so I dropped my fork, left my lunch, and raced out, and we went out, and we had this massive fire. There were helicopters and everything going overhead. So anyway, at the end of the day, we got back around midnight. So I had gone about 12 hours with no food, Now, somewhere along the way, someone offered me some bickies and some candies. Now, I'm gluten-free, unfortunately for me, so I passed up on the bickies, but then the candies, I was like, well, that would keep me going, but I knew something. I knew that if I pop some sugar in, it's going to give me a bit of energy boost, but it's not going to last very long. So it's going to put me on this high sugar, low sugar merry-go-round. I said, you know what? As much as I I would like some energy, I think I'll just pass on that because I don't want to get into that, because it's not going to last me very long. So I decided just to drink water and to keep going. All right, so I'm still running on breakfast. My plant-based breakfast, I'm still running on that. And what's interesting is, by the end of the day, all my comrades were just about collapsing at midnight when we got back to the station, and I felt fine. Now, I was certainly low on energy, as you can imagine, but I hadn't got on that low sugar, high sugar merry-go-round, you know. And here's how it works. Plants use sunlight to create carbohydrate. By the way, can everyone on this side, on my side, can you see this? Yep, okay. Yep, they can see. All right, so through the process called photosynthesis, plants actually build carbohydrates, also called, could be called sugars, okay? That's the building blocks of the plant. Now, when they first build them, they build them in long chains, and so the carbohydrates in the chains that has occurred mostly in the plants, we call them complex carbohydrates. They're complex because they have a lot of different atoms in the molecule, all right? And the more complex, the better, right? Because they're these big, long chains, and when you eat them, it takes a while to break down. So, you know, all these fruits and all these veggies here are full of fiber and other compounds. So the carbohydrates are all placed together in a cell structure in the plant, and so they're complex. All right. Now, your whole meal grains as well. Okay, they're all complex to some extent, complex carbohydrate. So I've just created a little chart here to kind of explain what happens. When you eat them, when they go into your stomach and they start, in your intestines, they start digesting, a complex carbohydrate just takes a while to break into pieces. That's the point, okay? It takes a while to break down into smaller bits. And so as it does, as it digests, and the longer complex carbohydrate breaks down, then those little pieces, these little simple sugars that break off are absorbed into your bloodstream, and that becomes the energy that you run on, all right? But it doesn't all release at once because it's in a complex structure, right? It has to be broken down, okay? So that's good. And so that's how you can go for many hours. The meal that you've eaten doesn't get absorbed all at once. It's like a fuel that burns for a while, you know. It's like the nutritional equivalent of diesel fuel, you know. It's slow burning, but it'll go a long ways, all right? So then, your brain, under an even fuel level, okay, over a number of hours, I think I skipped over this fact here that when the sugar starts getting absorbed, your body puts out insulin to mobilize it. And when those two curves run along together, then, this is what I'm going to say, your brain is happy. Your body is happy, but your brain is happy, okay? Now, what happens, let's go to the next thing now. So, simple carbohydrates are carbohydrates that they're either formed as very short, very small chains, or they've been bigger ones that have broken down. They're called simple. So, if you can imagine, a simple carbohydrate is like a refined sugar or white flour, where it's actually either formed very short, very simple, or it's already been broken down in a manufacturing process, okay? So what happens to those simple carbohydrates when I eat them, all right? My body is tuned to have for a slow release, whole food, plant foods, but when I eat a simple carbohydrate, it's already been, look at this, isn't this great? Let's be honest. Let's compare that with the picture of the veggies and the fruit. You know, there's something about this picture that just draws you in and calls your name, right? We're laughing about that. It's true, right? You know, talk about appetizing. If I had the choice to eat a whole capsicum or eat a slice of something here, it's a natural choice, right? You're just going to get this one, all right? They're simple carbohydrates, and they're ready to go. They're ready to go. But what happens when they go into your digestive system? All right, so the simple carbohydrates doesn't take very long for them to be absorbed because they're all ready to go straight away. All right, so they're all going to go in the bloodstream at once, and the body is going to say, the body is actually tuned for the slow release ones, for the complex ones. And so when you eat the simple ones, the body's going, okay, we're getting a lot of input here. We need to mobilize a lot of insulin, all right? Because obviously remember, the body is tuned to the complex ones, and so given the amount of energy that's coming through, the amount of sugar that's coming in, well, obviously we're going to need a lot of insulin. So the body starts pumping out the insulin, only to find out that all the simple carbohydrates have been absorbed at once. And now there isn't any more. And now I have more insulin that's now mobilized that sugar, and now my blood sugar level just went down. Okay? And I feel I'm actually, you can feel that sort of low sugar. I need something to boost me back up. Why did I have that? Why did that happen? Well, because the process of digestion, that breaking down of the food has already been happening in the manufacturing process, and now when it gets in my body, there's not much left to do. So it boosts me straight up, and then it lets me fall, right? Rather than an even release. It's sort of like, remember I said the equivalent of diesel. Diesel's a slow burning. It's like a petrol, like flash, boom, and then it's all gone. And so it tricks your body. Your body's not, we weren't created to as nice as they look, we weren't created and built to run on this fuel, and so it tricks your body, and so then it sort of leaves you crashing down. And so the effect here, not just blood sugar to do with diabetes and everything, but there's an effect also on the brain. Your brain is not happy when this happens. It's like your computer's not happy when the power spikes. Your brain is not happy with this kind of this kind of thing. So that's why in its whole form, right, in its whole state, plant foods are better brain fuel. Carbohydrates, we've always known carbohydrate is brain fuel, right? That's true, but not all carbohydrate is the same, right? You have the complex ones, you have the simple ones. And so the way they occur in nature generally are more complex and easier for your body to deal with. They digest and assimilate over time, over a number of hours, and they produce an even release of energy. So when I went out on the fire ground there in Victoria, I was running on breakfast, which was not ideal, but my plant-based breakfast, whatever that was, at least kept me through the day. Had I gone and I succumbed to the temptation to pop a few sugary things, I would have jumped over onto another track, and now, before very long, I need more, okay, because of this sort of reaction. So if we can just grasp that, and we can make better choices, or at least understand what's going on. This relates to diabetes, and this relates to health in general, what choices we make. So it's not just about being a vegetarian and eating something that comes from a plant. It's really about making those good choices of fuel that our body is made to run on. So what are we talking about? Well, more whole food. So let's get an example of whole food. You would choose a whole grain bread, okay? And so the grains are still more in the form that they were. They haven't been, the starch hasn't been milled out of them with hammer mills like we have. The starch is still kind of bound up with the fiber and everything else. You would choose brown rice rather than white rice, for example. You would look to avoid a lot of added sugar, and that's a whole other subject which we won't talk about now, but sugar comes in many different labels, doesn't it? It's called many different things, and those are all generally extracted and manufactured and placed into foods. White flour is a simple carbohydrate. It's a simple sugar, so it doesn't take, for a diabetic, a white flour is a big problem, isn't it? Any white pasta, white bread, because it's straight in. Okay, so blood sugar goes straight up. And watch for all those hidden sugars, like we said. They're all over the place, right? So whole foods, plant-based, simple, that's what we're trying to sort of still steer toward. It's going to be better for our health, better for our brain, better for everything, right? One more thing. We have a book. It's for sale downstairs. Some of you may have heard. It's called The Ministry of Healing. So it's sort of a spiritual book, but it's a health book as well. But there's an interesting guiding principle that's found there in that book, and it just says this. It says, grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. Okay, so it's obviously coming from a spiritual perspective, but it's saying that the foods as they occur in plants, as produced by plants, the seeds, the fruit, the stalks, the roots, the leaves of plants, that's what we're made to eat. And these foods prepared in a simple and natural manner as possible are the most healthful and nourishing, right? And I find that over the years, there's been different diet fads that have come and gone. You know, people get various ideas, even raw food, you know, which is good, by the way. I don't negate that at all. Although I've never personally tried eating, say, raw potato, you know. It's never occurred to me to do such a thing, you know. So there's some things that I prefer to cook a potato, but maybe I don't have to turn it into chips and deep fry it. Maybe I can do something else with it, right? In a more simple and a more natural. So I've always found that this kind of idea has been a great guiding principle. It sort of just steers me in the direction of take what occurs in nature the way God has made it, prepare it in a simple and natural manner as possible, obviously to look good and to taste good, and that's the fuel we're made to run on, right? So when we say vegetarian, the vegetarian way, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about finding our nutrition in plants, and it needs to be delicious, it needs to be nutritious, it needs to be good for you, and that's going to produce much better health for our body. Of course, we need to move. Of course, we need to get sleep and exercise, you know, water and all those other things. So tonight we just talked about a little bit about nutrition, and I hope you learned something. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the ladies have for us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. And it's always interesting about the carbohydrates. I need a bit less of them, I think. And tonight we're giving out a survey, as I mentioned earlier. If you have filled them in, or if you haven't yet filled them in, could you please do so? Because during the presentation, we'll have someone come around and collect them from you. So if you've got that little survey there when you're registered, 3 sisters here, didn't get one here. These 3 ladies at the front. I'll just skip these ones here. They're ready to go. They might just 1 minute, yeah. Yeah, Vivian will come and collect them. So if you just like to fill them in, and pencils, yes. Okay, so, all right. Thank you. All right. Okay, and I'll see how they're going out the back there. We'll just give us 1 minute. Okay, we've got Amy coming up for the first recipe tonight on your sheet there, which is... Nope. Oh, that's right, roasted lemon and cauliflower soup, correct? That's the one. Okay, thanks, Amy.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are you? It's good to be back here and to see, I think, some new faces and some regular faces. I hope you're all doing well. So first up tonight, we're going to do such a simple soup. We're coming into winter, so there's nothing better than a nice warm bowl of soup in the evening. So let's get started. You need a baking tray, a whole head of cauliflower. Now when you cut the cauliflower, I just cut it off, break it, and we want chunks about that size, depending on how good your oven is. And we literally are just going to get your whole cauliflower and just break it up. If there's smaller bits, it doesn't matter. Super easy to do into your tray. And it'll be the whole cauliflower, stems, everything, because we don't want to waste anything here. Oh, there we go. Cauliflower. Now your rosemary, you can put as little or as much as you like. Just sprinkle that on top. And the same with all your other vegetables. Roughly chopped, placed into your baking tray. So we'll pop that in. Now with your potatoes, because you want them to cook evenly, say you've got a chunk of cauliflower that big, you'll go about half a size for the cauliflower. So you want your potatoes sliced up, just that little bit smaller as they take a little bit longer to cook. And you do that with all your vegetables into your baking tray. Beautiful. So that's 1 head of cauliflower, 6 potatoes, 2 stalks of celery, 2 onions, same thing, roughly chopped. Okay. See how super quick and easy this is to do. That's why I thought, well, I cut up all the veggies in the back, and I thought, nah, let me show you how fast it is. With your lemon, half a lemon, just pop it into slices, and you're going to pop that into the baking tray as well. And last but not least, get your garlic, 4 cloves of garlic in there as well. Super easy. Yeah. Olive oil, just give it a quick drizzle, like so, and just a little bit of salt. Okay, now you're going to pop that whole thing in the oven on 200 degrees for 40 minutes until everything is soft. Now once that is cooked, you put half of the mixture into your blender with 1 litre of stock, and you whiz it up and your soup's done. You do the other half too. So you've got 2 litres of stock plus your veggies, and you've got a warm winter hearty soup. We're going to serve it with croutons tonight. If you want to go a bit more fancy, you can bake extra cauliflower chunks and have roasted cauliflower through your soup. You can sprinkle parsley on it. If you want it a little bit more lemony, you can squeeze some fresh lemon juice on top, and it's a real nice warm winter soup. So yeah, that was it for me tonight. Nice and quick and super easy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Amy. So,
No, you've got to bake it first.
thank you. There's a sample of it here. It looks really good. Okay, and what we've got for you tonight is just some... Who would like to taste some of this tonight, yeah? Okay, we've got some samples here, if you'd like to taste it. And let us know what you think.
I don't have a recipe. Is it? No, less water.
Less water?
Less water. I've got it. Oh, sorry, Val. Yeah.
You want now or later?
Later. And I'll need the frozen one.
Okay. So what's the verdict? Is it good? Delicious? Ah, that's great. Good. There you go. Who would have thought you could eat cauliflower like that? Nice. Okay, so next we have on the menu tonight is mini mushroom shepherd pies. Okay, so these are obviously vegetarian, and we have Rosetta who's going to take us through this demonstration for you tonight. Thanks, Rosetta.
Nice to see you all tonight. Lucky it's not cold and windy and rainy and yuck. It's good weather. That's good. Okay, tonight we're going to do shepherd's pies, but they're mini ones. You can make them as a regular shepherd's pie, but there's a little bit of a twist to it. Very easy to make. You need a deep fry pan. On, yep. And what I do, a little drizzle of olive oil, 2 spoons it says on the recipe, and then in that I've got some chopped rosemary, fresh rosemary. I just put it in the oil, and then garlic, crushed garlic. And the aroma starts to get really lovely with the rosemary and garlic. Can you smell it? And then what I want to do is put mushrooms in. Now I'm using the nice big mushrooms because they're full of flavour. They're really good. And with this recipe, all you do is just break them up. So I've broken them up so that they're just chunky, okay? Because this is going to be a rustic, hearty sort of a thing. So it's just a matter of breaking up the mushrooms a bit. And then we'll add that. Getting there.
Smell it.
Yeah, it smells good, doesn't it? The rosemary really has a nice aroma. And rosemary goes really well with potatoes. I'm sure you all know that. Okay, that's the mushrooms. Now they go in. Thanks, Amy. Now they need to cook down a little bit. And then we start adding, one way to get the mushrooms to break down quicker is to add salt, because they'll start to sweat straight away. So I add the salt and ground coriander. Gives a really nice flavour as well. Don't want it to burn. How do we turn this down? I don't know. There we go. All right. Then we start to add all our veggies. We're going to have celery. I've chopped up celery, stalks and leaves all up. That goes in. Parsley, same thing. And then, don't tell my husband, I'm putting carrots in it. Grated carrots. Nice and fine. He hates cooked carrots. But I made this at home and he ate it and he didn't know, so don't tell him. He's probably out the back somewhere. Yeah, but that's why it's grated, okay? Because you can dice it if you want. If you don't mind the carrots in there, fine, you can grate it. You can dice it, but I grate it so that it's finer, so you don't actually see it. Yeah, that's starting to reduce a bit. Turn my flame up a bit. So the mushrooms, they start off, you think it's too much stuff, but then it comes down again. Now we've got onions, 2 onions diced. They go in. And we then have, what are we doing now? Tins. We've got a tin of lentils, brown lentils. I will discard the water from the lentils because it can be a bit much water. If you find even with discarding the water from the lentils, if it's still a bit too runny, you can add a little flour to thicken it at the end, right at the end. But you don't have to do it first because you wait till, because every tin's different. Some of them seem to have more water, some less. Okay, I don't need that and that. But I will need a little bowl.
Bigger than that?
Bigger than that, yeah. Enough so I can put the masher in it. Okay. So this is going to have nice protein in it. It's got chickpeas is the next step. We put chickpeas in it, but I'll mash the chickpeas a bit first, just so that they're not, big round clumps in there. If I mash it a bit, it'll blend better with everything else. Oops.
That, yeah? Smells good, doesn't it?
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Amy. So we'll use the water for the chickpeas, no problem. It's just a matter of giving them a bit of a mash. Don't have to mash all of it up. It can be, because this is sort of a bit rustic, so it doesn't have to be too much.
If you just lift that up and show us how that...
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, in the camera there. This one.
Good. So we add that.
So it's not real mushy, it's just breaking it down.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to do... I'll leave that here, Amy. I'll leave that. Yep, thank you. And then we have a tin of diced mushrooms, tomatoes. I can read. Diced tomatoes. Now, secret ingredient is sun-dried tomatoes. Sun-dried tomatoes give it that really lovely tang, nice flavour to it. And I've used just strips of sun-dried tomatoes, which you can, together with the oil that it comes in. So that adds a really nice flavour. Stock powder, which is the vegetarian Marcel chicken stock powder. That's the timer on the...
Is that what we have downstairs, that one? Yeah, the stock powder downstairs, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got the big tins.
Yeah, Elim
downstairs.
store sells that stock
Yeah.
powder, thanks.
And a spoon of soy sauce. This all adds to the flavour. So it's starting to get quite juicy now. So we need to cook it down. So that there's not so much liquid in it. Now, you can make this, obviously, the way I'm doing it is I'm putting it in pastry cups. I forgot to bring my pie cutter. So I used a cup, a little bowl, does the trick. Yeah, so I've done that. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate waste. I hate wasting stuff. And a lot of times when you make pies or anything like that, that you need rounds and you don't use all the pastry, does that annoy anybody else here? That you have all this leftover pastry? What do you do with it? It's just bits and pieces. But what I like to do, because of the nature of what this is, you won't even notice whether it's bits and pieces stuck together in the tray. So I usually, when I do it, I make sure that I use the rounds and then I use the leftovers as well. So it's just a matter of coating it in and using all the bits and pieces, sticking it together, and when it's baked, it's fine. Depends. Some people are fussy, some people I don't. It doesn't bother me. I like it actually. So then you blind bake them, the pastry, put it in the oven for 15 minutes, just so it's nice and golden, and you'll get it to look like that, like a little cup, pastry cup. You could do it without blind baking it, but you've got to make sure you've got a good oven that bakes it properly from the bottom, because otherwise it gets a bit mushy and not very nice. This doesn't need much. Once this, you need all the onion to go translucent and to cook. So once everything is cooked up here, you don't need much later in the oven. So we do that, we bake it, and then when it's baked, you've got your things. You can bring me a bowl of the ready-made stuff.
Okay.
I'll leave that because I need the potato too. You can bring the potato out there.
So you've got a time on that, or you're just going by the look and texture?
Well, I just go by the look and the texture because you want it to cook off some of the juices because it's quite juicy. And as I said, if you find that it's still too runny, you can add a little bit of flour to it just to thicken it. But you need the onions to be cooked because we only put this back into the oven for 20 minutes once we fill it, and then we put mashed potato on top of it. And you just need the mashed potato to go nice and crispy. So this is probably going to take a few minutes just to cook down so that a lot of the liquid has boiled off, so that the onions are done, because you can tell, because they're still very white in here. So you've got to wait till they're cooked and clear so you don't see them. Aha! This is what it looks like when it's done. So it's quite a sort of sloppy mix, but it's not quite as watery as what this one is here. So what we do, we just add it into our cups. If you want, of course, you can just use this up and use it like a regular shepherd's pie. Just put this in the bottom of a big tray, and a baking dish rather, and just put the mashed potato on top and do the exact same process without doing the little pans, patty pans. So I've got some potato, which is just potato boiled in salt water, so you don't have to salt the potato afterwards. It's just a matter of boiling the potato till it's soft, give it a mash, And again, this doesn't have to be mashed really well. It's a bit sort of rustic.
That tastes good, yeah? It's like I bought one. That's good.
Are they coming out? Has everyone got one? There's one missing here.
A pie.
A pie, yeah.
Did I do it right?
Yeah. So I've just mashed the potato, left a bit of the water in it, and you put a bit of olive oil in it. No need to put cream or anything like that. If you want to be fussy, you can do the mash so it's really, really soft and you can pipe it on, up to you. So it's just a matter of putting the mash on. Drizzle of olive oil, and then you top it up with some thyme.
If you've got time.
If you've got time, top it off with thyme. That's right. There we go, just drizzle of olive oil and some sprigs of thyme. Then you put it back in the oven, just so it gets nice and crispy on top. You get the golden peaks on the mashed potato. About 20 minutes, 180 degrees, and that's your product.
Well done, thank you. Enjoy that. Oh, Amy, I just had a question on that stock, that 2 litre stock for that first recipe.
Yes.
Where does? Can you just show us where that comes from?
Just Coles vegan chicken style stock.
Okay, Coles vegan chicken style stock. Okay.
You can use the powder, the stock powder from downstairs. You just got to mix it with the water. Same thing. So any stock powder, any liquid
Okay, stock powder with water, or else you can buy it in the carton. Thanks.
Yeah.
And thanks, Rosetta. They look,
Welcome.
they're delicious. I thought I was going to need tomato sauce, but no, I don't. Spoiled it, wouldn't it? Tomato sauce would have spoiled that. Yeah. So thank you. So that's the mini mushroom shepherd pies. Next on our recipe sheet tonight is vegan nacho cheese dip. Okay, vegan nacho cheese dip. And this is going to be demonstrated by Tanya. Thanks, Tanya.
Sorry. Do you have the mic?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone enjoyed what they've received so far? Good? Okay. Question. Who likes Mexican?
Yes.
Yeah, we're Mexican fans. Very good. Okay, this next recipe is a vegan nacho cheese dip, which is good on burritos, good on your nachos, very tasty and very, very quick and easy. So I've started off by the 2 cups of raw cashews. What we start off with is soaking them in boiling water for about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so that's what I've done earlier on, and this is what I've gotten just to soften them up. Now, before I add that into, everything is just basically going straight into the blender. So I'll bring my blender across here. Okay, so in here I've mixed the unsweetened plant-based milk. It's up to you what one you want to use. Just remembering it's the unsweetened one. So I've gone with the oat milk. So I've got the oat milk in here as well as the vegetable broth. Now I've got there that it preferably low in sodium. You can basically either one that you make at home from your maybe leftover steamed veggies or whatever it might be, or you can also have the ones that is store-bought. So I've just got the vegetable broth in here as well as the unsweetened plant-based milk. Everything straight into the blender. So I've got that there. Okay. Now, what I have here is, I've got there that it's the piccolo peppers. Who's seen pimentos? It's also, okay, so
Yes.
we can, it's like a sweet pepper. Now these are the piccolo peppers, which is actually, it comes in a jar, Coles or Woolies, and this is one that actually makes basically the taste or the base of the actual nacho cheese dip. So I've gone with, say, 6 tablespoons of that straight in. That's what also colours it. And then I've got savoury yeast. We've got there 4 tablespoons of savoury yeast. That all goes straight in. I've got your onion powder, garlic powder, cumin. So it's very straightforward, this. All the ingredients just straight into the blender. This is smoked paprika. And then I've got the salt. So there's 2 teaspoons of salt there. Now, I haven't added any cayenne pepper in here, but if you want a little bit of heat to it, you're more than welcome to add some cayenne pepper into that. Now, what I've got here is, this is the tapioca starch. This is what will actually thicken it up. So I'm going to add that straight in. Actually, I had some extra kilo peppers here. I might just add that all in there. That's it. It will come in big chunks, the piccolo peppers. So you can sort of just measure it up to the 6 tablespoons that is there on the recipe. Then into that, I'm going to add the 5 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then we're just going to whiz it all up. I'm going to add the cashews as well. So to a high-speed blender is would be preferable, because you want it all, you don't want it to come out grainy. So just bear with me, it's going to make a bit of noise here. Okay.
So this is the Vitamix, yeah?
This is the Vitamix, yes. Okay, shouldn't take too long. It will be thin and runny. Straight after it comes out of the blender, straight into preferably a non-stick pan or a pot. And what we're going to do, this is because the tapioca starch is in there, we're wanting it to thicken up a little. So I'm just going to turn this on. Yeah, thank you. So just on a medium heat, this will take about 4 to 6 minutes. And yeah, you preferably to stand there and stir so that it doesn't stick or burn. Oop. I haven't tried it with corn flour, but I'm sure that it may work, but it might not turn out as thick as, yeah. Because we want it to turn into a bit of a cheesy, saucy like consistency, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
As you're stirring it, it may start to get a bit lumpy, but you know, at that point, I usually get the whisk, and just to whisk out those lumps. What do you think?
It's good.
Good?
So you could pour that on top of the nachos on a pan and bake it, yeah?
Yeah. So depending on what kind of
Corn chips.
consistency you want, if you want it to be a little bit runnier, then obviously you might want to add a little bit more broth. If you want it to be a little bit thicker, maybe a little bit more tapioca starch. So, and then you just, go according to what consistency you want. And then, if you're wanting it to be of a pouring consistency, then, you know, like a bit more of the broth would help that. So basically it doesn't take very long, and that's basically it. You can garnish it with chopped fresh chives, and I've also chopped up a few more of those peppers, and that just goes on top if you're wanting to just garnish it. So this is probably, I can hear the crunching. It's like that when you hear the crunch, it's like everyone's enjoying it.
We need more corn chips. Oh, we'll have to demonstrate corn chips one night, yeah? Actually make corn chips, yeah?
Maybe tortilla chips.
Yeah, tortilla chips, yeah.
Maybe we'll get Paul to demonstrate those.
I'll give it a go.
And that's basically it. It does take a bit of time, but within 4 to 6 minutes, it does start to thicken up, and then it will turn into that consistency as you've got on your, or that you had on your plates.
So in the baked pan there, is that the nachos in that one? Or?
No. So this is
that's
just
the cauliflower from
demonstration.
before, yeah?
That's of the shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
That's without a pastry base.
I got you. So that's that with
Yeah.
traditional shepherd's pie, right?
Yes.
In the pan.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So we've just transferred it into a bigger pan.
So those on the, you can see it on the screen there for those in the audience there. Nice.
It will get there. But I might finish this off in the back. So it's starting to thicken up now. It's starting to build up.
Okay.
And, Vivi can now.
All right. So once it's thickened up, then it's ready to use straight off the stove.
You just want it to cool down maybe
cool
a
it down
little.
and then you can use it. Yeah.
Then you can use it straight away.
Fantastic.
If you're wanting to put it, say, into the fridge, you want it for later, You can bring it out, same process, just put it back into the pan, like if you're wanting it to thin up again. Basically put it back into the pan, heat it up, that's to reheat it up again, to bring it to a, because it will thicken up and it will harden a little bit, but if you're wanting it to go back to that thin consistency, yeah, just reheat it back into the pan. Yeah.
Just a question here.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Microwave, it probably could work in the microwave if you're wanting to put it into the microwave. I haven't tried using the microwave, but I'm sure it will do the same thing. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. At the same time, just, you know, bringing it out through intervals and just stirring it. Yeah. But it's now starting to thicken up now, so. Whoever wants to take home some, I don't know who's going to eat this cheese sauce later, but there'll be plenty there.
So when it thickens, though, does it, like you said, it hardens in the fridge.
Yes.
Would it be like a kind of like a cream cheese or a cottage
It'll
cheese?
be more, yeah. It'll be more like your
Cottage.
like your like a cream cheese type
Yeah.
consistency. But it depends how you like it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can make spread on
Yeah.
bread then. Yeah.
yes, exactly. No, this is pretty good as a spread or whatever you like. And we're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. You enjoy that one? Great. Next on the menu tonight is Snickerdoodle. Now, this could only be demonstrated by someone by the name of Vivian, because a name like Snickerdoodle, that sounds like Vivian's recipe. Yes? Is it? It's an American recipe?
Go with it.
All right, we'll go with that. Okay, but it's, and this is a, what would you call this?
It's a cinnamon cookie,
A cinnamon cookie. Okay, there we go.
basically.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's-
Thank you.
It's very strong with cinnamon, so I really like cinnamon.
Great, thanks.
I think it's a really nice hearty spice, good for winter. Anyway, so again, really simple recipe. We start off by creaming our, I've got vegan butter here. So we cream our vegan butter and some brown sugar. Thank you. That's fine. All right, so if anyone knows what creaming is, it's just mixing it together at high speed. Thank you. Now these things aren't always my friend, so let's see how we go. We died. Oh, no, okay. Oh, no, it doesn't like us.
Try again.
We're improvising. All right, I'll just scrape down the edges there. We'll pull up all the wires. Just scrape it down a little bit. Oops, sorry. I'll need another one. Okay, that's that for now. I'll just pop that there. And then we add in our vanilla essence. That's the vanilla. And we've got some apple cider vinegar here. It helps it to rise up because we add some baking soda later. And we just mix those up as well with the electric mixer. Oh, that's okay. Yep. Okay, then for the next bit, you do it by hand. Well, not by hand, we don't use electric mixer. Just waiting for the spatula to come back here. Usually I would scrape all that off, but we'll just leave it there for now. Then we add the rest of the dry ingredients, and I think we've got lemon juice in there as well. So the flour goes in. We've got our cinnamon. A little bit of salt just to balance the flavours out. Thank you.
Do you need it, Sue?
No, that's fine. Thank you. Lemon juice and the baking soda. I don't know if you can see that, but as soon as you add them together, it starts to fizz. Then we use the spatula just to mix that together, and it forms a crumbly kind of dough. It smells nice from here. Like Christmas cookies. So just mix that through until most of the flour is incorporated, but it is going to be crumbly. Thanks. All right, so we've got it to sort of a crumbly kind of consistency. And then we add our plant-based milk. I've got oat milk here, but you can use any kind of milk you want. And that just helps to combine it at the very end. And then it forms a more sticky kind of dough. And then we get our hands dirty. So what I've got here is a lined baking tray. I haven't greased it at all. I don't think you need to. So it's just a lined tray. I think this recipe will do about 2 trays, but I'll just do the one here. We're going to add some more brown sugar to a shallow bowl and a little bit more cinnamon. Oh, can I have a little spoon? Sorry, just to mix this together. The quantities on your recipe sheet for this part are not an exact science. You can change it up however you like. If you like it more cinnamony, less sugar, the other way around, whatever you like. But all you do is combine your cinnamon and sugar in a bowl. Thank you. The brown sugar mixes in a little bit harder than caster sugar would. It takes a little bit more effort just to break it apart and make sure it's all coated in cinnamon. Thank you. Okay, now I'm not expert, but I think this is the part that makes this a snickerdoodle cookie. So we take our dough and you just pinch a little bit amount. I think I've sort of gone for, I don't know, what would you call that? A big grape? A walnut teaspoon. Roll it between your hands in your palm, form a ball, and then you roll it in your cinnamon sugar mixture and pop it on your tray. You don't flatten it, it just goes on as a ball. And you just keep going. I won't do the whole tray, but that's pretty much it. Once you've got them in the oven, so your oven's preheated at 180 degrees, the tray goes in when it's hot. They only bake for 10 minutes, they're quick. And then you let them cool on the tray, otherwise they're too soft to pick up. So as soon as the tray's cooled down, you can pick them up and store them in an airtight container, eat them, whatever.
So they'll flatten out naturally kind of thing, yeah?
Sorry?
They'll form this shape naturally
They
then?
do, yeah. So when they're in the oven, they sort of dissolve, melt, and they flatten out. Yeah, you'll see them there. Yeah, fingers get a little bit sticky, but it's all fun. Probably a good one to do with kiddos. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Place them, you know, about 2-3 centimetres apart on the tray because they will spread. But yeah, that's kind of it. Enjoy. Oh, excellent. Do we want the...
So just quickly, are there any questions from tonight's demonstration?
Questions?
Oh.
Yes, back there. What is vegan butter?
Okay, so vegan butter you can buy from Coles or Woolworths. It's just a margarine without any dairy products in. So whether you get Nuttalex or I think some of the no brand names have no milk solids in it. So that's a vegan butter. No worries.
And another hand I saw up here. Someone? Yes. Mushroom pie. The question is, would capsicum be a good substitute for the mushroom?
Yeah, you could do capsicum, you could do eggplant, possibly pumpkin. What else would you substitute mushroom?
Put more lentils in it.
Yep. No
Okay,
worries.
thank you.
Anything that's quite bulky.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes? Can you substitute the flour with gluten-free?
For what? Is
For
that
the cookies, you're saying?
the cookies?
Yeah, for the cookies.
You can certainly try. We haven't tried it, but you should be able to try it, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't see why not.
It should work.
yeah. You could try it. It's just the binding a binder in there, right? You'd probably need to add a binder, maybe some egg white, or you get the egg replacer or what have you. If it's to be vegan, it'd be an egg replacer you could add as well to
You
help
might
bind it.
possibly be able to do like an almond meal and flax meal or something like that.
Yeah.
Flour.
Okay, any other questions? Yes? Savoury yeast? Yes, it comes in flakes, and you get it in a tub, or we do sell it downstairs in a packet, right? Yeah, we have it. Sell it in the shop downstairs as well in a packet. So, yeah, if anything on here is you don't have at home, so things for downstairs, we would have the stock and yeast flakes, and what else?
All your legumes.
All your legumes,
Your nuts.
nuts. There you go. So if anything like, yeah, feel free to go downstairs for the shop. It's something that we just run as it's a not for profit. We kind of try and cover our costs and just to keep ourselves going down there. But that's what it's about. This is a community community sort of program that we just to help benefit those around. And so if you would feel like you like to have a look at that shop, we'll have it open after the meeting tonight. So feel free to go downstairs and have a look at what we've got there. Just a few things that you might not get in the normal stores. And also some of the books that we've got on display here, you can also obtain from downstairs. Yes? Shop is open from 9 till 5:30, Monday to Thursday, 9 till 1 on Friday. Okay? And, and being a cooking demonstration night, we keep it open till after the cooking demonstration. Yeah, so we'll be going, at least for another half hour downstairs if you'd like to have a look and take anything or take home anything from down there. And if you'd like to take any more of these cinnamon cookies home, there's plenty more out there I saw on the table there. Let the boys know and they can bring some out to you to take home with you if you like. And that's it, yeah? Any other questions? If not, okay, let's just, thank you everybody for coming, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll just bow our heads, ask for a blessing, a safe blessings on the way home. Our dear Father in heaven, we thank you once more, Lord, for the lovely time we've had here together tonight, for this beautiful food that's been prepared. And we pray that we've gained a bit more information that we can apply in our own kitchens at home to make our lives healthier and better. And we thank you for all this knowledge, and we ask you to bless us now and keep us until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Well, thanks everybody.